is William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I welcome you to another Two Hats special of community events. Let's look in and see what's really happening.
Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet, and I'm here in the studio with Lerone Landis. The late Patti Fink is at the march in Austin, the Women's March. Now, Lerone, you were saying, I thought that was yesterday. Lerone, this is Patti. She was late. She just got there for the march today.
Oh, boy.
But she wanted to march down in the Capitol, so she's marching on her own, I guess. Our guests today are Beau and Major. They've been with us before, but we're going to tell the story over again, and for anybody who doesn't know it. Yeah. Let me explain what the story is. I got married last summer, right? Okay, so what did I do? Went down to the county records building. We filled out on the computer. You fill out some information. That information then goes over to the counter, and you wait for them to call you. And the couples who are getting married, everybody's talking online for a few minutes, and congratulations, congratulations. When are you getting married? When are you getting married? We all talked. We were the only gay couple. Didn't matter. Everybody's happy for everybody, right? And then we go up to the counter, and they gave us our marriage license. So what was your problem?
Well, it was a little different for us the first time. The first time we tried to do it, it was about 4.5 years ago, and when we went to apply for a marriage license, of course, marriage equality wasn't the law of the land, and they refused to give us our marriage license, and we said, well, we're not going to leave unless you give us one. So we handcuffed ourselves together and just sat there until they removed our handcuffs and put their handcuffs on us and took us to jail.
It's a good thing you brought those keys with you.
Yeah, they did have a little trouble removing our handcuffs.
I bet they did. What was the response of the clerks at the counter?
Well, actually, the main clerk, you'll have to help me with her name, Melinda. She actually, when she had to tell us that it's not legal and she couldn't issue it, she burst into tears. It was really touching, and I knew just from talking, like you said, to most of the people who were there for this happy moment, I knew that most people there were positive toward the situation, but what can you do when the law says no?
Right.
Mm-hmm. What can you do? So what did you do? You waited. You actually got arrested. They told all the reporters who were there to get out of the building, and then they took you down through the elevator, was it?
Yeah, the first time they took us down through the elevator. Yeah, they made us face the back of the wall and everything.
And what was the charge?
Criminal trespassing, I believe it was. Yeah, because we stayed after hours, and they kept telling you the building is closed, you have to leave. And once we got down there, they actually said, "Now look, we can let you go out of a portion of the building where nobody will be, nobody will see." Which honestly, I think that was really cool of them to offer that, but that's not what we were there for.
And it's what they wanted also, because they were on your side. They were really not there to arrest you. They were there to escort you out of the building.
Our Dallas Police Department, they are amazing people.
Well, that was actually county police.
Oh.
The sheriff's department, because it was a county building. So, and they were great too. Okay, so what happens then? You're charged with criminal trespass, which is a misdemeanor. It's a misdemeanor, right?
Class C misdemeanor.
Okay. What happened? You go to court? Well, you got taken to jail first. How long were you in jail?
We were there for a few hours, but not a long time, because we were kind of mentally prepared for it, and we had been given a couple of thumbs up by some people about what to do to get there, and we had bail money ready to go, and we kind of got out after probably, 4 or 5 hours?
Yeah, and I'm just going to reveal this. It was long enough for him to eat one of those gross sandwiches.
So, after that, after you got out, did you have to go to court? And did you guys have to get counsel?
Well, our first court appearance happened. It was the next month, and so we went, and it was just to let us know that they were going to schedule us for another time. Mm-hmm. But then we had a little march from the courthouse back to the records building, and we were just going to apply for a marriage license again, just because. And unfortunately, they had a deputy there who was not very well. He was kind of rude and just. And it got the best of me, and I ended up getting arrested again for the same thing. So he was able to not get arrested that time, which was good because he had to come bail me out.
Gotcha.
And this time I was in jail a lot longer.
My work at that time wouldn't have tolerated a second arrest, so I knew I couldn't do that. But I also knew once I don't know what he was, if he was security or. I'm not sure of his actual position. He was uniformed, had the whole badge thing going on, but as rude as he was, I knew that was not going to go over very well. So.
Right. Well, and that brings up another point. You know, a lot of us, we might get arrested. Who knows what the charge is going to be, but that doesn't mean that our jobs would find out about it. But you guys were very much on the news, in the papers. Everybody knew about it. How did this affect you in your personal lives?
Well, with my job, mostly it was okay. I mean, the people I was really close to were understanding and sympathetic. There were a few that weren't. It became a little bit more hostile at work than I was able to handle, and I ended up losing that job. But
you know what you did? Okay, Major, you work at a gate company.
Yeah, you do.
I don't think you changed anybody's minds there.
No, I'm pretty sure they were all still going to do what they were going to do anyway.
Yeah. But where you were working, Beau, it was a company that probably most of those people hadn't thought about, why do you want to marry your husband? And it made them think about it for the first time.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Yeah, so did it have an effect? Yeah,
Of
it really
course.
did. Okay, so the second time you're arrested again, how long were you going through court?
Beau ended up getting all of his one charge satisfied probably within about 5 months, but it took mine a year and a half from start to finish, because it was just complicated because there were 2 arrests and. But they dismissed his charges. They dismissed both of my charges. It just took a while.
But it was a funny dismissal. You had to do some community service, right?
Yes, community service, and actually his second charge required either community service or a donation of some sort to a nonprofit organization.
So what did you do?
I ended up, from mine, I held a fundraiser at the Dallas Eagle. It was an interesting fundraiser. And we raised over $2,000 for Youth First Texas.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that is absolutely great, yeah.
So not only were you raising awareness about marriage equality, but also helping the kids. Mm-hmm. What were you doing?
Well, mine, I ended up paying my fine. I was going to do something similar to what Beau did, but the timing didn't really work out, so my donation went to the North Texas Food Bank. So.
And do you remember what you raised and how you raised it?
We actually just paid that one directly.
You just paid it?
$500, yeah.
Okay.
And Beau raised a little over $2,000 with his flogging experience.
That is how I raised mine. I was on a cross, and you pay a certain amount of money for a ticket, and you get to flog me for a little bit, which actually felt really natural after what I just went through.
Yeah, that was the easy part.
Right.
But you raised money for 2 good causes, and you raised awareness about something that right now, here was my experience, and let me tell you the rest of it, going to get our marriage license. So we type in the information, and then we get in line. When we got up to the counter, she's typing, and she's typing, and she's typing, and Brian is getting a little bit antsy, and it's like, what is taking her so long? And I said, this is nothing. just thinking about the day, because I spent the day with you both times. And, I'm thinking, we're not going to jail for this, and other people have. We're not going to be turned away for this. It'll be 5 minutes. I think we can tolerate 5 minutes.
Suck it up.
Yeah. And, we're standing there, and I'm kind of, not because, we're getting married, and I'm so emotional. It's Beau and Major, what they went through.
Yeah.
And I got a little bit emotional about that. It was like, we really fought for marriage equality. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you went through all of that. The charges went away, and then marriage equality came in. It'll be 2 years in June, and you ran right out and got married, right?
Well, no, that marriage equality day was 575 days ago, because I checked, and we did. We got a signed marriage license from our clerk that I had such issues with before, and we were very nice, Mr. Warren, and he personally signed ours, and we shook hands, and everything was great. But
that day he was saying behind the scenes, "I wish I could issue this to them."
He was,
yeah.
He really was on our side on this. So
yes. The original time, yes. And so he was happy that this time he was able to actually sign it. And, and there were so many couples getting married that day, and, George and
Jack.
And Jack and so many others. And so, but we were going to wait, and Beau's mom had just been put in the hospital. And so we left there, and we went up there, and she said, "But y'all already got married." We're like, "Yeah, but this one
because you had a commitment ceremony."
Right. We actually had
Which
a wedding.
she was able to attend.
And
it was nice.
his mom showed up, or his mom came, my mom came, my family, and our friends. And, of course, it was an illegal marriage in Texas, but we still got our marriage.
Well, but it was a commitment ceremony.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so she said, "Well, I want to be there." And we're like, "Well, yeah, well, we'll wait for you to get better and come." And so we had 90 days back then to get it done. But unfortunately, she never got better, and she passed away. And so that's why, that first year we were kind of waiting.
The 90 days is how long you have. Once you take out your marriage license, you have to use it within 90 days.
Right, within 90 days. And then, and so she passed away in October of that year, last year, or now the year before. So we were just kind of waiting and knowing that we still had to get the legal document. And so we decided that maybe we would do it on April 20th, which would have been our 5-year anniversary of actually living together. But then after the election, we decided that we definitely wanted to move it up.
So the date that you picked was what? It still has significance.
Well, January 5th was exactly 4.5 years after we actually first applied for a marriage license and got arrested.
Because you were arrested on July 5th and you got married on January 5th.
January 5th, yes.
So that's a meaningful day, too.
Yep.
And I was there, and it was a beautiful ceremony. And again, one of the things that was nice and significant about it was the judge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who was your judge?
Judge Tanya
Parker.
Yes. And, I loved her. We had met her before because she refused to marry anybody until there was marriage equality across the country. And we really admired her stand that she took. She was one of the political people here in Dallas that wasn't afraid to take a stand publicly. A lot of other ones, maybe they were behind the scenes supporting us, but she actually was out there supporting us. And when we contacted her about actually marrying us, she gave us an enthusiastic yes. And
awesome.
It was, for us, a perfect ending from the beginning to the end.
I wasn't there, but I saw the video, and you could tell she was just genuinely happy to preside and marry you guys.
So enthusiastic. I enjoyed her. Her energy was infectious. I just really like her.
Well, because, it was like when I was getting my marriage license, I had gone through that with you. Both times that you chained yourself to the stanchions and wouldn't let anybody through when they were climbing over you. It really, but I spent that day and, I'm thinking, gee, this is so easy. What you got arrested for, we just paid our, $78? And they're handing us the piece of paper that you were arrested for asking for just a couple of years earlier. She wouldn't marry somebody until she could marry everybody. And now she could do it. And she credits you with bringing attention to that issue here in Dallas County. And now she could marry you, just like she could marry anybody else. To her, it was such a simple thing to do, but she couldn't do it before. Now she could. So she was not just, it wasn't just emotional, it was joyous. It was just such a beautiful thing. Okay, so
prior to you all getting arrested the first time, which you knew you probably would, did you have any friends or family saying, guys, don't do this?
There were a couple of people saying, this will go on your record and it'll be there forever, that sort of thing.
Your permanent record card?
Yeah, the one they pulled from high school, apparently. I don't know. But even those people who did say that still were kind of, like, yes, you're making a stand, and that's a beautiful thing. So
that's awesome.
See, I would think it's going to be with you always. Yes, everything we do is with us always. And when somebody says, looks like you were arrested for something, yes, we stood up for marriage equality. Not only did we actually win it, but we won it at the Supreme Court level, and they said we were right. And anybody who doesn't respect that, you probably are not going to be wanting to work for that person in the future. So, this is a perfect break time, so why don't we take our break a minute early. You're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis. Patti arrived late at the Women's March in Austin. She's there today, and so she couldn't be with us. She'll be back next week. Our guests are Beau and Major. They were the marriage... not the marriage equality couple. They were the marriage the couple that was arrested for trying to get married several years ago. And we're going to talk more with Beau and Major right after this.
Hi, I'm Cleve Jones, and you're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 KNON FM.
And I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis. Our guests are Beau and Major, the couple that was arrested for trying to get married several years ago.
Are now legally married.
Now they're married.
Yes.
Just like anybody can do.
Just like anybody can do. And
because it's so much a no big deal.
Apparently not. Yeah. As it should have been from get-go.
Well, it's been 3 weeks of wedded bliss so far.
Yes.
Well, and before the show, I was just, oogling over their wedding rings. I wish, put them up to the mic so everybody can see them. But I won't say where, but they got their rings at the same place that my husband and I got our rings. And both experiences were really well. Could you kind of tell the cute little story about going in and get your wedding ring? Because I think for some people, I knew for us, of course, we got married, over 10 years ago, going into a generally heterosexual establishment, like especially the chain we went to, it might be a little nerve-wracking going in with someone of the same gender saying, hey, I want to we need wedding rings for us.
Right. So we went in. I had actually applied online for the account to get the rings and everything. So we went in. Beautiful girl behind the counter. I wish I could remember her name. She came up to help us, and I said, we're here to get wedding rings. And I even said rings with an S. Oh, okay. Well, do you have an account? So she looked that up. She came back, and she said, all right, well, here are our men's rings. And I start looking, and he kind of quietly said to me, I don't think she's getting that. and I was like, well, I think she is. And so I start looking, and so she already has hers? And I said, no, we're getting married. And she, all right, well, these are what we have. She didn't really even miss a beat. It was a nice experience. That's but good. At first she was not there.
Just not there. That's good. And we went to the same place. There was a guy who helped us, and we had our rings have to be resketched every once in a while, so they know us when we go in there now. But you have to order the rings, and when we went to pick them up, the store manager made a point to come out and tell us congratulations, shake our hands. And again, this was 10 years ago.
Nice.
And you got married in Canada.
I got married in Canada because at the time
there wasn't a choice because Massachusetts,
Massachusetts had it,
but you had to be a Massachusetts
resident. So we really didn't have a choice.
And it was considered domestic partner or
no, it was marriage.
That was the first marriage.
They called it marriage.
Vermont had domestic partnerships or
no, they had civil unions.
Civil unions.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Massachusetts had a marriage, but you had to be a resident.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Also not recognized outside of the state. I'm
Exactly.
assuming. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right, and slowly, actually, that changed. Several of the surrounding states started recognizing.
Right.
But,
Right.
I mean, so New England, which is like the size of Dallas County. So, anyway, so you got your rings, you're married.
They just came back from their honeymoon.
Came back from your honeymoon. Does it feel different?
Yes, it actually does feel a little bit different. A little more... I don't know if the word I would use is significant. It's just... It seems like there's a little more power to it. Like, we are literally one unit now, and it feels good. I like it.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that I've found. After marriage equality, as we were dealing with people who, putting together our wedding, I was expecting some people to still be looking at us kind of sideways about it. And I think what the marriage equality decision did was for people for whom it was not an issue.
Right.
They weren't thinking about it unless it was on the news, like when you made news. It wasn't their issue. They understood if gay people get married, it has nothing to do with their own marriages. If they see more people who are happy, that's fine. It was just one of those things. I don't want to say they didn't care about it because that almost makes it seem unfeeling, but it just wasn't their personal issue. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. As soon as it happened, all of a sudden, okay, well, you can get married, so it's normal. And I found a whole lot more people out there treating us and treating the whole issue like it's just normal.
Yes.
Which was nice. That's the part that I like about it, that I really enjoyed. When I'm with straight married couples, oh, you're married? Yeah, we're married too. When did you get married? 30 years ago. When did you get married? Last year.
Right.
It's and you can laugh about that, but it's so normal.
Yes.
I know for me, it just felt, I hate to use the word official because that's what it is, but I was able to hold my head up a little higher.
Yep.
I have something, I can back this up now, because I think a lot of times some heterosexual couples look at our relationships as something of a joke. Even though you've probably been together for 20, 30 years, because we didn't have the legal document, they didn't take it seriously.
Yep.
Right.
And so now I had that to back up, like, this is serious, because long time ago, I've had family members refer to Danny as, oh, your friend. He's not my friend.
Or roommate.
He's not my
there's that
roommate. And we used to grapple with the word. We never refer to each other as lovers, but we used to.
So 1970s.
It is so 1970s. But we used to, I guess we'd call each other partners because we're not boyfriends anymore.
Right.
We've bought 2 houses together now. We've been together for 10 years, and now I can say, no, this is my husband.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a nice thing.
It's nice, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
He's my husband.
Here's one of those things. Brian was having some pains in his stomach. I said, would you call the doctor? Okay, so by Monday morning last week, pains are gone. Does he call? No. Again, yesterday, he's having these little pains here. They're moving to here. And it's when it started, I said, that's gallbladder. Then he said, no, it's hurting here. I said, okay, back there is kidney stones. He said, no, now it's moving down my leg. I said, what do you have, a snake that's crawling around inside of you? But here's what I can do. His doctor, or our doctor, a doctor, that's not the issue. But if we're not married, I legally would not have the right to call for him.
Yes.
Yep.
Tomorrow, is he going to call? Well, we'll see. If he doesn't, I'm going to call the doctor.
Right.
And I can schedule the appointment for him.
Yep.
But I can do that legally.
Yes.
I mean, and it's one of those things that I couldn't do before. And it's such a silly little thing, and, people who don't want us to be married, I'm sorry. Taking care of those little medical things, sometimes it's just easier for the partner, the spouse, to call, explain what's going on from what I saw going on with him, and me take care of it for him.
Right.
Couldn't do that before. Now I can.
I agree.
And you know what else is nice? Now we're living in an era of marriage equality. We're a little different because we have a child, but sometimes people assume that we're married. And they're like when Gabrielle was, I guess, almost a year old, is when we first put her in daycare. And I called up there to check on her. She wasn't feeling well one morning, so I called her to check. I'm like, "Oh, how's Gabrielle doing?" "Oh, she's fine. Your husband called her and checked on her earlier too."
So nice.
And I remember going. So when I picked her up, I go, "By the way, I don't remember telling you that we were married." She goes, "Oh, I just assumed you guys were." So, I mean,
And
we
that
were
was 10 years ago.
But yeah, it was 10 years ago. I was like, we were, but so it's nice.
And things like that, I think. The other side, the opposition who didn't want that to legally happen, I think that they take things for granted like that. And,
They do.
And it's such a normal thing for them, but you know, and it's even includes hospital visitation, talking about medical things. You know, if he's in with a serious illness and we're not legally married, I can be technically not considered family and not allowed in to visit. And that sort of thing now,
And
just
our
having
doctor-
that comfort.
Our doctor's affiliated with Baylor. Now, we had one other experience with Baylor, and they were great. They were great. But there have been issues with Baylor over the years. So
I've heard about those.
Yeah.
can't do that anymore.
Yep.
Okay, so you changed the date of your wedding, pushing it up because you wanted to be married under the Obama administration. This week,
And you made
Friday-
it. Yay.
And we all still have our marriages. They are intact. And
For now.
For now.
I mean, let's do some honest reporting. Trump said it is settled law. Let's hope he just leaves it at that.
Yeah.
Yes.
But in all honesty, what really could he do about it?
Well, Trump may have said what he wanted to say, but the approved Republican platform from last year says, and if I may quote, "We do not accept the Supreme Court's redefinition of marriage, and we urge its reversal, whether through judicial reconsideration or a constitutional amendment returning control over marriage to the states." And that right there is precisely why we got married before.
And you may be aware of this, but Texas is actually working right now to attempt to limit the legal definition of marriage.
Okay, how do you limit what marriage is?
Right.
Texas will probably try to figure out a way to do it.
They're trying to limit the benefits of marriage. So they can't totally take it away from us here in Texas. They know that, but they want to limit like spousal benefits and things of that nature.
The ability to get same-sex partner insurance through your business or something like that.
And I'm
they
sure
want
adoption
to give,
will be in there too.
and it's not that they can restrict that. They can simply, like Trump's trying to do, place it in the hands of the business. The business can decide, do we cover same-sex partners or same-sex spouses in this case? And that also, while he did say that, you know, this has already been decided on by the Supreme Court, he's also stated that he wants to move that power back into the hands of the states. And if we look at Texas, like I said, with what's going on right now, we know how that's going to go, especially throughout the South.
Yes. And the Texas Supreme Court did agree to hear that.
And while the Texas Supreme Court might want to hear some of that is by statute. And what you said, I thought was interesting. You said, how about limiting adoption? Now, one of the things our friend Joe Strauss, who I love, I absolutely love him. I hope he runs for governor. What a great guy. Opening session of the legislature, the Senate is in there, and they're talking about bathrooms and where people pee. And that's all they're about this session, because it is so important where people pee. Now, we only have one bathroom here, Beau, and I know you went. Were you horrified that you went into our single bathroom and locked the door, knowing that there might have been a woman in that bathroom earlier today?
I was mildly terrified, and I did use the scale that was in there. And again, I need to warn you about your gravity here. I really think it's off a little bit.
It could be. There's some pull from the moon right here. But when you said adoption, now Joe Strauss he's the one who put all the bad bills, the anti-gay bills last time, into committees that were either headed by Democrats or headed by somebody that he thought would derail them. Most of them got killed in committee. This time what he did was he laid out his platform. And understand, nothing gets to the floor of the Texas House without him putting it there. And he said, you know, children are important to us. They're the future of Texas, and we care about them. And you would swear he was about to go into bathroom bills, but he said, that's why we're going to fix education funding. He said, no child should be afraid to go home to their parents. We're going to fix CPS. He said, we have water problems in this state. As fast as the state is growing, we're going to work on those water issues. We're going to work on traffic issues throughout the state. We're going to work on mental health issues. And that's the agenda for the House of Representatives, and that's what's going to come before the floor. He didn't mention bathroom bills positively or negatively. It wasn't a negative speech, so he wouldn't have mentioned negative things. But he talked about what he's going to bring to the floor. And one thing about adoption, CPS has relied on the LGBT community for years. Every time they went to limit who can adopt, it's not the gay community that's had to go to the legislature to lobby, because CPS is there lobbying and saying, who the hell do you think you're taking our kids, especially our toughest kids?
Yeah.
So adoption, that'll be a tough one if they do that. It's going to make the CPS mess worse.
Messier.
And it's horrible right
Which
now.
brings me to, I knew you all have, would you say 8 four-legged kids?
Yes, we do.
So are you thinking about getting any two-legged kids?
You know, I taught school back in the early 2000s, and I had 20 at a time. And I loved
I didn't
having
know that.
20 at a time from this hour to this hour, and then I could send them home to their other family.
I love other people's children.
Nothing wrong with that.
They're very sweet, and
Pictures
they
of
go
them, right.
home
Right,
after
right.
a while, so that's nice.
I'm known for buying the littlest kids the noisiest toys to annoy their mothers.
Drum kits. And
oh yeah, love drums.
CNCs,
Drums are
absolutely.
good gifts.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, that answers that.
So don't invite us to any birthday parties. You've been warned.
So the inauguration was this week. First, there were some Senate confirmation hearings. I'm holding my head. I do that normally. Every time I talk about Trump, I start holding my head.
It hurts a little. Huh?
It does hurt a little bit. So there were there were Senate confirmation hearings this week. There was the inauguration. Impressions.
There was the Women's March.
And then there was the Women's March.
Yes.
And then there was the press conference this morning that just baffles.
Yes,
everybody.
he is obsessed with size. He's all about that. The Women's March actually had what they're calculating now 4 times the attendance of the inauguration, which...
Can I give you some alternate facts?
There is that. I'm so using that phrase, though, whenever I get in trouble.
What's floating around there's side-by-side pictures of 2009 when Barack Obama got inaugurated the first time, and compared to what Trump just did, and the differences are stark, and pictures don't lie.
Nope.
But
they're trying to say that the press actually framed the photos to look. But when you have an aerial view of an entire area, I don't know how that could possibly
I don't know
be
how
a
it could be
framed
either.
photo.
Photoshopped in people.
That must be it.
That must be it.
Although I also did hear that they were paying people to fill seats.
I heard that also. As a matter of fact, I have a friend who lives in D.C. My best friend lives in D.C. Friend of his type thing said that he got an offer.
Yeah, I heard from somebody who was on the D.C. Metro that they were down there handing out tickets to the parade, trying to get people to attend, and people were basically saying, we don't want to go.
Right.
Well, in Washington, D.C., 4% of the vote was for Donald Trump. 4%.
Right.
That was the lowest percentage anywhere, because New York City or Manhattan, it was something like 8% voted for him. But 4% in Washington, D.C., obviously people just off the street weren't going to come. Now, the thing is, Barack Obama 2009, it was the highest attended inauguration in history. Okay, let's see. Washington, D.C. has a very large black population. This is the first black president. You don't have to travel to get there, so a lot of people who have an interest, for whom this was a very emotional, meaningful event, went. Even if they didn't care one way or the other about Donald Trump, not disliked him, but he's okay, they probably wouldn't be going to his inauguration.
Right.
It's nothing to be insulted. It's nothing personal. And the other thing is, he's president, whether one person attended.
Right. He's exactly. You're talking too much common sense.
Yes.
You're not really.
Way too much.
Way too much common sense. He's still the president. It's not going to change that. But that's so important to him, numbers and size.
To him, it is important.
It's very important to him.
He's proven himself to be so extremely sensitive to
any
type
who
of
has
criticism.
a press conference to talk about numbers and to criticize the media about the numbers at your inauguration
and screaming at the press for fake news. And when we've seen the video, you can't call it fake news if you said it.
Exactly. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I heard that CNN was banned. They did not get their press credentials.
I had not heard that. Really,
they did not get their press credentials with the new administration. That is amazing.
When you go to a press conference and the information you're given is wrong, what's the point of going to the press conference? Mm-hmm. So the fact that whether or not they were banned, whether or not they're going to not have them there, they're still going to get the information.
Oh, yeah.
They might have to dig a little deeper, but so will all those reporters who were given incorrect information. It might be better off to start fresh without the wrong information.
I mean, I don't know. It just seems weird. Like, what are you going to do? Ban every news organization that doesn't report something the way you see fit?
Well, Fox will report the way he wants.
I think that we have a historical precedent for that, too. Germany comes to mind.
Yes, it does. We need to take a break.
It does.
That's a perfect place to break. You're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis, and Beau and Major are our guests. We'll be back with more Lambda Weekly right after this.
Hey guys, I'm C.D. Kervin, and you're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM.
And you're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis. Beau and Major are our guests. Do you use a last name? Are you using one last name, your own last names?
Yeah, we're still using our same last names.
Okay, because I hadn't even thought about it. You're just Beau and Major, and
when we applied for our marriage license, I think that was like one of the first questions to ask. Well, are you going to change your names?
Oh.
Well, I'm too lazy. I didn't want that whole hyphenated thing. That's too much to write.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not into hyphens. So, yeah, we didn't do that either.
We kept ours also.
When you get married and you're older, when you get married and you're 20, that's one thing. Your name, you haven't had that name all that long, and you're going to have your new name, hopefully, at least until you're divorced 5 years from then. But when you get married and you're older, people like me in my extremely late 30s, I couldn't change my name.
Extremely late.
Funny.
Well, I'm 40-17 this year, so.
So we're talking about Beau and Major were the couple that applied for their marriage license in Dallas County a couple of years before you could do that. They were arrested for it, and we were just comparing their getting married to my getting married, which was so easy. They finally got married and decided to marry before Obama left office because. And so we're just talking a little bit about what's changed so far with the new Trump administration. Number one thing that changed, the number one act that happened in this administration, LGBT, is off the White House website. Number one thing that happened. Then went climate change.
Yep.
And then went civil rights.
Yeah.
Yep. Nowhere to be found. But you can find Melania Trump's jewelry line.
See?
Yes, it links over to her QVC jewelry line,
Yes.
which is absolutely a conflict of interest.
Yes, we're not joking. This is serious. On the White House website.
Okay, so obviously that
it's so mind-boggling. You're just at a loss for words. I'm right there with you.
that's something that the Constitution says you can't make money off of the government, basically. I mean, you can apply for a contract from the government. I'm sure that Joan Rivers did not apply to get her line on whitehouse.gov also, and Melania won out. That's not what happened, is it?
No,
I don't think so. No. You can't do that. You can't make money off of, you can't put a commercial line of your own on a government website.
Well, no, technically it's not on there. It's a link that leads you directly.
Yeah, you can't do that.
At first it was, though, but they tried to dial it back.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Well, as far as what we might want to sell anyway, this new Republican platform also states, if I might go back there again.
Please do.
We oppose government discrimination against businesses or entities which decline to sell items or services to individuals for activities that go against their religious views about such activities. You brought up Germany.
Yeah, which is basically just a way of saying that if my religion says I can't serve you because you're gay or lesbian, transgender, black, it could be literally anything, stuff that we thought we are decades beyond at this point. No.
So I can finally get Lerone off the show?
Regression, you can.
Yes. It's against my religion to have him here.
Yeah, and I mean, we're laughing, but that's a little scary.
It's horrifying.
And, I can say it that way to you because you're looking at me like, oh, there goes David saying another stupid thing. But who would have thought that we'd be discussing that actually in the context of
2017?
No, this goes beyond some little backwoods state of Indiana or Georgia or Alabama or even our state sometimes. They want this for the whole entire country. Yep. And that's including the people who didn't vote for Mr. Trump and Mr. Pence. Mm-hmm. It's just unfortunate.
You can go to whitehouse.gov and buy Melania Trump's jewelry.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think the horror of this actually goes beyond just the paragraph that he read there. Think about this. I'm in a car accident with him, and say that the person who pulls over to help us, or the paramedics, the ambulance, those people claim to be Christians, and they don't want to help us because their religion goes against that. It's not just about baking me a cake. It's not about, can you bring flowers to my wedding? It's beyond that. This is...
It can literally be about life and death.
Yes.
And it's unbelievable that they would actually make that sort of statement. And there are other states trying to push bills that are very similar to this that will say a doctor can refuse the right to serve you or take care of your children.
Or our trans friends,
are of a gay family. There are doctors that have actually in the news refused to serve children.
Yes.
Because those children...
And in most states they would lose their medical license because you can't do that.
Well they should.
But
a Hippocratic oath is an oath.
Why would you even want to?
What kind of a doctor is that?
What kind of human being is that? I mean, you get into the medical profession to help people.
To save lives.
To save lives. Of course, you want to make some money also, but you would think the number one thing is why you went to medical school is to learn how to save and help people, especially a child, an innocent child.
And part of getting that medical license is the Hippocratic Oath, which specifically states that you are there to do no harm. No harm.
No harm.
And by inaction, that's direct harm.
Yeah.
It's...
And people wonder why we shopped around for a pediatrician.
Okay, so there's a slight difference there.
There's a slight difference, but you still kind of have to be, I want to know what we're getting into.
I'm assuming that any doctor would have treated your kid.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm saying that very naively. But I'm saying any doctor should have wanted to, but it has to be a doctor that you would feel is comfortable with who you are too.
Yes.
So that while any doctor might treat your child, they might not do the best job they could, not consciously but subconsciously, and that's what you're really hopefully, is all you're really weeding out.
Right.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I mean, hopefully, you shouldn't have to. But now we're really talking about doctors who can put the sign on the window, no kids of gay people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we would think that doctors and people like judges would be fair, but you remember a couple of decades ago, Judge Jack Hampton here gave a lesser sentence to the murderer of a gay people, of a gay man, because, he was taking out a gay guy. So, and I'm sure that these doctors may say, she doesn't need as good a treatment. Look at her parents.
Right.
So that's a smart move.
And there was another case after that where a bailiff in the court had said, in a rape case, where the rape victim, who was a lesbian, and worked with the police and identified her attacker, and this was an attacker who was a serial attacker, so got this person off the streets, did everything the district attorney's office could have possibly wanted, and said, yeah, I wouldn't give him more than 30 days for raping a lesbian.
See?
And said it in front of media who heard it. Had he been smart, he would have kept his mouth shut, at least in front of media. What do you mean? This person did everything you wanted, helped the community, got somebody dangerous off the street, prevented other women, probably straight women, from getting attacked. How do you do that? How do you have that kind of mentality?
But if you can encode prejudice actions into law, these people will do whatever they want to do, and it's to whomever they want to do it to. So that's our biggest fear with this incoming administration, and all the people that he's put in his cabinet, all the scary things that are going on. It's
okay.
Worrisome.
Let's talk about one of the appointments. Okay. You're from Texas.
Okay, so
I
think Rick Perry is probably the best choice that he made. Now, here's the good points.
Yeah,
Texas
please.
Under Perry became the #1 wind producer.
That is true, yeah.
And all of the wind production, I think there were like 2 windmills that were producing electricity in the state before he came in. All the windmills that came under Perry, and very little more development since he's gone. So that's Perry. And he gets credit for that. The other thing is Ben Carson, who was selected for HUD, had said, well, I really don't know how to run an agency. So how are you going to be president? You don't know how to run a country either.
Right.
But he said he didn't. Okay, Perry was governor for 15 years. Like him or not, like what he did, he knows how to run an agency.
Right.
True.
And I give him credit for that. An agency in a big state physically, big state with a lot of people. So he's, those are benefits, and he'll do a job. He will do the job. Now, Trump promised us that, my cabinet's going to have the highest IQ. That was another statement this week. Okay, so Stephen Chu, who was Obama's first energy secretary, he had a Nobel Prize in physics. He was replaced by the current energy secretary, who is a nuclear physicist, and he will be replaced by Rick Perry.
Okay.
I don't need to explain anything else. Anybody who disagrees with me on that. But I give Perry credit. He knows how to run an agency, and he will do it. Hopefully he'll hire the nuclear physicist.
Yes.
Because here's what was scary. When Perry said, I regret having said 4 years ago that I wanted to close the energy department, because I recently got a briefing on what they actually do. Okay, so even after he agreed to take the job, he still didn't know what the energy department did. He didn't know that their main function is things like storage of nuclear waste and other issues like that. But hopefully he'll hire the nuclear physicist to help him on that.
I don't think Trump knows what some of these cabinet picks do.
Oh, no.
He doesn't even understand what some of these departments do.
Okay, so who's your favorite cabinet pick? Understanding that before each name was announced, the line that should have gone before it was, what would be funny?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm going to go with Betsy DeVos.
That was mine.
Yeah, I have to go with that one right away. I don't know if you saw...
Education.
Yes, Secretary of Education. I don't know if you saw her tweet from, was it Friday? Yeah. On the historical inaugurate... Basically, people put her tweet on Facebook with all of the grammatical corrections required. This is 140 characters. I mean, seriously,
Right.
You're the Secretary of Education. There were at least like 5 or 6 of the cross-outs and no, you should have done this. Here's where a pronoun goes, that sort of thing. And yeah. She has absolutely no idea what public education is like. She's
been against it.
Yeah, she's been against it.
And she stated publicly that she's completely against public education, that funding should go toward the private schools. Yeah. I mean, we talk about the conspiracy theory of dumbing down America and making education worse so that we're easier to control. That woman is a prime example of...
I don't think it's a conspiracy theory.
You know what would
obvious.
work in some parts of South Dallas, some of the poorer areas? Tax credits.
I'll see.
I'm kidding. I mean, they're looking at me like, tax credits.
What?
But that seems to be one of the goals, is how are we going to replace Obamacare? Well, my suggestion is replace Obamacare with the Affordable Care Act. And then fix some of the things that are wrong with that, because there are some things
how
wrong
many
with
people actually thought those
Did
were
y'all
two different things?
See the exchange between some guy on Facebook who was upset. Well, he was going on about how he was glad that they were getting rid of Obamacare, and he's like, my Affordable Care Act is going to take care of me. He had no idea.
No idea.
No idea.
And the things that they're trying to get rid of, pre-existing conditions, that's huge.
That is huge. That's probably the biggest one.
Okay.
And that doesn't just count for the people that are on Affordable Care Act. That counts for the people who have their store-bought, company-provided insurance. That counts for all of that.
Here's one. Coal miners. Who did they vote for? En masse? For Trump, right?
Right.
Okay, do you know black lung disease is covered by insurance for the first time under the Affordable Care Act?
Yes.
And coincidentally, by Obamacare.
I love that we're talking about that like two different things.
I think a lot of people are getting kind of surprised with, they thought everything was going to be good. It's just, it's not really affecting us. And we agree with, keeping our country safe. Everybody wants to keep their country safe. But, there's different ways to do it. And, I think they're going to be surprised that they elected this person. Or I hate to even say we elected him, because we didn't.
Right.
But he got elected.
Yeah.
So
with the fewest votes in the populace, he got elected.
Yes.
The problem with the Electoral College is that it's not proportional.
Nope.
States like North Dakota and Wyoming, which have very small populations, every vote that's cast in one of these smaller states that gets 3 electoral votes counts 5 times as much as any vote in California.
Yep.
So why does somebody in California, why is their vote not counted as much? So the number of electoral votes that California gets should be multiplied times 5 to make it fair.
Yep.
Texas, our votes count only 1/4 the amount that a state like Wyoming does. Now, people might say, oh, yeah, but we're agreeing with how Wyoming voted. Yeah, this time, but what about next time?
Right.
We don't know.
Right.
We don't know. Our vote needs to count proportionally.
Yes.
My one vote, it's not I get 1/4 of a vote and everybody in Wyoming gets a full vote. That's what's wrong with it. It's not that the Electoral College is necessarily terrible. I mean, it is, but
It's just
if we want to
outdated.
keep it, of course it is.
It's outdated. I mean,
silly.
back when, things were different and certain people's voices were not meant to be heard.
Absolutely. Absolutely
I
right.
think that it probably had a place, but it is outdated now. And at no point, and I think we've seen in history, at no point should a voice be silenced in a democracy. But I don't think that's what we're living in anymore.
And speaking about, we only have 2 minutes. Speaking about voices being silenced, let's talk about the women's marches that went on all over the place. I went to the Dallas March. We're not sure exactly what the count of people were, but it was in the thousands. I was at one place it was a march from City Hall down to the Union Hall on Washington Street. So Young Street becomes Canton, and then they made a left on Washington. There was one place I was standing right in the middle of the distance between downtown and Washington Street, and 2 lanes wide. People were all the way to Central Expressway, to the underpass, and I could see them turning the corner blocks up that way. And it was just this mass of people.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing to see that many people who were really involved and.
But you know what I hope? I hope, they set a record. It's supposedly the largest demonstration in U.S. history with over 2.9 million protesters nationwide. I hope it doesn't just disappear after this. Mm-hmm. No. I hope the messages that they were talking about and they were echoing, let's keep that up.
Keeps the visibility.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Well, we have to, when we see things that are going on that are wrong, whether it's for the LGBT, if it's for the people with disabilities, if it's for women, we have to resist.
Yes.
Resist, resist, resist.
And we need to break. I want to thank Beau and Major. Thanks for coming in today.
Congratulations.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
And we'll be back with Lambda Weekly next week.
This is William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, please leave comments below, or like, follow, or subscribe to us and get notices of all our videos. We love it, even when you call.